Hi, everybody. It's Ari. I hope you had a wonderful Easter weekend, a great April Fool's. Wait, that was more than a few days ago. I don't know. Um, yeah, I've been off the last couple of days, except to stream that really scary game called Dead Secret. But man, I was having fun at NorthwestCon. My favorite panel of the time had to be the Star Wars Escape Room for teens. And yes, the teenagers playing decided to let me play with them. Because I said I was a teen at heart, and we just had a blast. I love escape rooms. I love thinking puzzles. After we made it through the escape room in 1 hour and 27 minutes, and then we tried to do the radiation puzzle because we figured out the pieces for it, and the host had to go to bed because it was 2 o'clock in the morning for him. Well, I sat there and finally figured out to go throw it on PowerPoint, rotate the pieces around, and got it. There should be a YouTube video up on it somewhere on how I solved it, which means not only did we beat, we took over the ship and we flew it off to wherever the teenagers wanted to go in the Star Wars universe. They did not go to the meeting with me where, I showed my completed puzzle, but that's okay. And I didn't record the endings or the official bits of the puzzle, just me working on the radiation puzzle, because I didn't know if it's allowed to record things during NorthwestCon. I should have asked. But that's where I've been. So, let's get back to reading. My goal is reading 2 chapters a night. Yes, I read chapter 7 a couple of days ago, but my dumbass forgot to record it. So I'm going to read chapter 7, work on chapter 8. If I can, I want to push do chapter 9 because there's over 180 chapters, and doing 2 a day is just going to take forever. I might stop after 2 because here in about 12, 13, 15 hours, sometime in the afternoon, because it is, I don't even know what time it is. It is 3 o'clock in the morning, so yeah, 12 hours ish. I plan on spending an hour or two, at least an hour, playing a game, and I'm going to double check before I start streaming, or for charity. And before I start streaming, I will check my statistics again. But last time I checked my statistics, which was earlier today, there was a tie between Stardew Valley and Tides of Numenera that people wanted me to see. So I could do a tiebreaker, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to go ahead and do Tides of Numenera, because that's a progressive story and has an ending. I also have to make a new layout for the new charity that my group is a part of, which is Gaming for Gaming. And when I do video games, they support 4 charities a year, and we just got done with Extra Life, and now we are doing Pause Your Game. It looks like they also do Stack Up and the Trevor Project. But this is a group that, even though they were the number 1 group in Extra Life, number 1, freaking over 30,000 money raised. They invited me, my little $5 donation that I had raised, to their group happily, because I was streaming for charity. That's all they cared about. So I will be officially streaming for them on Mondays in the afternoons until my schedule changes. Worm vomit. I'm sorry, I don't feel really good. I just had an episode right before I started the stream. All right. So I want to say something about this chapter so that way I don't have to pause to read. Chapter 7, this chapter came out September 8th, 2012. Okay? Which, short term memory, I just looked this up. Season 2. Okay. Yeah, which is between season 2 and season 3, which means the Changeling have played a big part. You know, they tried to take over, they tried to ruin Kendall. They tried to ruin the wedding. So, there are things, especially in these earlier chapters, that until pretty much chapter 6, where a lot of stuff has happened, they went back, fixed things, tried to make them canon in the story. Because they honestly wanted this to be 70 years after the timeline. But then, you know, season 6. Way. I don't even know which season 6 episode it is. I don't think it's this one. That is a good one, though. But season 6, you know, where the changelings change. Well, not all of them. The changeling queen is still the same, but the changelings change. Really threw them for a loop. You know, when you go back and you have the episode where, and by the way, there's going to be spoilers for My Little Pony. You don't have to know My Little Pony to enjoy the story. But if you know My Little Pony, some of this stuff might tweak you out because it's just not, it might not line completely upright. But Twilight becomes an alicorn, which means they had to change some facts. You know, considering I joined just a few short months ago, I don't know what it was like before. I think that's all the important stuff. Oh, okay. Alright. Chapter 7, Guesses, Grapes, and Grease. Equestria is home to a wide variety of sentient species, and there are very few of those species who don't collectively wish at least one other sentient species was dead. Dragons used to step on a lot of toes, especially prior to the Cutie Crusades. The belligerent predatory griffins have had their scraps with most of the other species at one time or another, such as the Griffin Bovine War of 23 Luna's Return. Older cows, as of the time of this writing, still refer with dark bitterness to the battle at what is now called Hamburger Hill. The buffaloes still look upon the encroaching borders of civilized Equestria with anger and mistrust, and there have been more than a few flares at the outskirts. Zebras tend to unnerve ponies with either their bizarre alchemy mixtures, strange ceremonies, or eclectic tastes in interior decorating. Changelings are nearly universally reviled due to their economically parasite nature and statistically significant ick factor, because all of Equestria is in significant trouble if they ever decide to make truly clever use of their powers. One would think then that with the wide variety of races that shared the space in Detrot would form the perfect ingredients for a fine powder keg. One would not be wrong. The scholar. Need a second. After several awkward and sometimes regrettable knocks on various doors, I finally found a Salian who was unoccupied enough to direct me back towards the Vivia's main room. I still managed to get myself lost twice, and only by luck stumbled back over part of the complex I remembered. My sense of direction isn't great. One more reason the chief keeps taxi around me. and it's not helped when I'm breathing in pheromonal haze. The bar was back in rape mode, which I determined when my nose started spontaneously bleeding from the baseline. The lovely soundproofing keeping the din from recreational areas completely concealed the fact that the DJ was on full attack. The room was full of dancing and the room was full of dancing and grinding, drums bopping up to the swollen beat. I swept a hoof under my muzzle and then tried to spot my companions. Swift was easy enough to pick out. She was brighter than some of the glow sticks hanging from various patrons. She was in a booth beside the bar, with her ears in up to her ears in a milkshake that I could have easily passed for 4 or 5 meals for me, and was already scraping the bottom with her tongue. I only recognized Midex when he moved. He blended into the background, slouched over several pillows beside my partner with the canary lamp ornament who had him halfway out of his shirt. His cuffs and tie were also undone, and my absolutely shameless driver was lazily stroking his chest hair. Attempting to directly cross the densely populated dance floor was a bad move. I wound up dodging some pony with her mane done up to look like some sort of exotic bird, and doing so almost caught a very comely unicorn's backside in the face. Man, I wound up winding my way around the edges instead. Taxi caught sight of me and poked Swift, who dropped her shake and began wiping stray bits of cream out of her mane and cheek fur. Come on, you two. We're going. We got a few things left before the day is done, I said, flipping my tail towards the elevator. The cab pony put on a very sad face and pinched her lips together. If she hadn't been at least one sheet to the wind, I think she might have even summoned up a tear or two. Aw, do we have to? She whined. Yes, now kiss the beef, and let's get out of this place before my mane starts to stick to itself. I swear, I'm breathing in sex fluids at this point. She shot Minix a lusty grin, and then threw her fur legs around his neck and hit him with a kiss that would have killed lesser beings dead on the spot. No pony's tongue should have been able to do that. It just was averting her eyes from the spectacle. She was nervously adjusting the straps on her masame as she asked quietly, "Sir, is that, Sir, is that, I heard there were ponies who, like, man, I never met any pony who, you know, with, with a biped? Kid, a thing to understand about Taxi is she doesn't care what you look like or how many legs you have." I answered her, idly swiping a bit of her shake that she missed off her ear and sucking it off my hoof tip. My friend has had Canterlot broils, Griffin triblorbs, and Buffalo Chieftains nosing around her flanks. I'm pretty sure she does it just for the reaction. What do you mean, sir? I nodded in Minox's direction. His pants were having a staggeringly obvious reaction, and when Swift saw it, she ducked back behind her feathers. Long after decorum had been satisfied thoroughly, Taxi disentangled herself from Minox and tossed back the shot of Wixie on a bar. As we three trotted into the elevator, she turned and blew the dumb beast a kiss. He was still sitting there in the same position, dazed and smiling, suit disabled, and his tail coiled around his ankle. He did manage a tiny wave before the unicorn in the lift shut the door. I breathed a sigh of relief as we made our escape from the Bavarian. Once back in the car, Taxi lit another stick of incense and put on some calming blues on the tape machine. The night was cool and pleasant. Isolated street plants spread pools of light and safety down alleys and byways of the heights as Mother called their files in from play, and the twilight hours lent the buildings a melancholy glow. I stuck my head out the window, letting the wind ruffle my mane. I listened to the city as a lonely rickshaw driver sat in the back of his hack and played taps on a much tarnished harmonica. Swift, still lightly caressing her pretty new pistola, interrupted my reverie. Sir, do you mind if I ask where we're going? Taxi threw her head back. Yeah. Yeah, you got a destination, boss? Don't call me boss, I groused. Let's go by the flying irons place. You remember where it is? She gave the wheel a seemingly leisurely twist that had me grabbing the passenger handle to keep from tumbling over. My underage, remember? Yes. We pitched up on the curb beside the beaten half-rusted cart which sat out front of one of the city's innumerable box-like neighborhood recreation centers that were meant to be a salvation of our youth about 10 years back. They become places for the fowls to smoke in the bathrooms and dealers to shut out their wares in relative safety. A few young earth ponies ran around the front, playing an improvised game of football. These were a different breed from the couple we'd seen in the Heights. They had ribs showing and wore hand-me-downs when they wore anything at all. Ponies aren't particularly a modest bunch, but a little makeup and a ribbon or two is considered making an effort. This had a lot of cheap earrings and uncut manes and fetlocks. For all the ills the world has visited on this particular neighborhood, however, the saving grace had pulled up one day and stayed. The food court outside was owned and operated by the meanest grease slinger this world has ever seen. An obtuse, permanently jovial unicorn with the skill behind a griddle to match his temper when roused. Flying iron. He became the center of local community that the much larger building behind him failed to be. On any given day, you could see dozens of ponies lining up, getting a generous helping of hearty soul food and a bit of the latest gossip from their friends, in one of the few agreed upon neutral grounds in the city. The cart didn't have a name, but a permanent stain of vegetable lard on the cement had hoof traffic worn pavement in the front of the demarcated zone between Flying Iron's territory and the gang's. They respected him because he fed them. Because if you fought, screwed, or dealt near his stand, or the nearby picnic tables, you quickly learned about the extension of his special talent, specifically that he could hit a pony upside the head at 50 paces with a pot of boiling grease. Never a pretty sight. I introduced him to Swift, and he gave her a hoof shake that left her fur matted, and then he turned to me. I ain't seen you on this in too long, Hardy, he commented, waving a cooking iron at me, threatening. I'm gonna take offense one of these days if you lose touch for too long, and I'm gonna have to come looking for you. I promise. I'll come visit more. Got a new partner to feed. You know what Pegasus is, I said. He chortled and turned as Swift turned pink. I do indeed. Here, have a proper meal then before you're on your way. An extra sprig of parsley for you, Miss Taxi. I remember you're the fancy sort. Taxi nickered and mock fence. I'm as common as they come, Mr. Iron, but thank you. He spooned out 3 massive portions of steaming fried hay on the paper plates, dropped the parsley on taxis, and set them on the picnic tables. I passed him the bits with a generous tip. He was the only pony I'd ever met who knew the secret of frying hay so crisp. Frying hay so it crisp, but it didn't burn. It was a finer magic than any pony can do with a horn. Swift stared at the meal in front of her like she'd never seen anything more sickening. It was dripping, and the plate was almost transparent from the seepage. Sir, is this actually food? You ate dead animal this morning, kid. You don't get to have a fit over some nice, healthy hay. Besides, if you complain to the chef, he'll hit you over the head with one of those frying pans. Try it before you knock it, I said, and jabbed my muzzle into the mound of sweetly spiced glory, watching my partner watching as my partner took a cautious nibble. 10 seconds later, she had fried hay in her feathers, and her mouth was so full she looked like a mutant red squirrel storing nuts in its shakes. Taxi tried a modicum of restraint, but whatever alchemy Flying Iron put into his delicious specialty was too much. She too succumbed to the desire to gorge. A few minutes later, I was picking my teeth with a toothpick while Taxi made a vain effort to clean her hooves with a napkin. Swift laid on her back, a small, beached, carrot-colored whale. The incredible powers of the Pegasus-sized Ectotronic had been defeated at last. I was in a contemplative mood, playing back a few of those things that had gone on during the morning. All right, before I call it an even, kid, can I see your notes? There was none of the usual snap or tin hut to her movements as she patted her vest pockets, and then the notepad on the table went back to her position on her back with her rear legs in the air. Ugh, sir. Ugh, sir. Please warn me next time. Some ponies' eyes are bigger than their mouth. You're gonna have a fun time on the shitter tomorrow. Our driver flicked a seat into my mane. Don't be crude. I adopted an expression of face, fetish, just like, moi, crude, coming from Miss I'm gonna have mouth sex in public. Taxi didn't even bother with a reply, but patted her full belly. Totally worth it. I wasn't sure if she was referring to the meal or not, but I knew if I asked, I'd get nothing more than the amused smile. Flipping over the notebook, I found page after page of careful annotation. Geez, kid, you got a good eye. Swift sluggishly put her hooves behind her head. I write when I have a spare minute. Do you think it'll be enough for my report to the chief? Report to the chief, I asked wearily. She swallowed sharply and decided the cat was on the bag. Sir, Chief Jade asked me to write a report on our activities. No surprise there. I dragged myself upright and putting my chin on the table. I think wisdom dictates you leave out the few essential facts about your heritage, Miss Stella, and how we got our lead. Make something up, but please keep it believable and make it boring if you can. If you tell her the complete truth, you're setting yourself up with a Section 8. Swift's jaw worked soundlessly. Sir, you want me to lie to the chief? I reached over to the table and prodded her cutie mark. Do you want to be a cop? You can explain to Internal Affairs why our first stop was to a whorehouse. Nightclub and escort service, she insisted. Fine. Nightclub and escort service. You can explain why we're helping your family, professional sex workers and part-time ninjas, with the spy business without getting in touch with organized crimes. You can tell them all about your relationship with the deceased employer, and while you're at it, you can tell them about the blackmail and the spy. I'm sure that won't go up the line and cause someone with clout to call down a dragon hunt faster than you can say bad eyeliner. Kid, trust me. What the chief doesn't know can't hurt us. You're the writer here. Come up with something that won't get us put on administrative leave pending a crazy evaluation, or worse, cause the things we're trying to prevent. Still looking very uncomfortable, Swift glanced at the pendant sword on her hip before slipping into a sulky resignation. I think I can do that, sir. I flipped to the page regarding the club security system. You know, most clubs I've been to have maybe a couple of protection spells, but nothing this expensive. Can you explain how it works? Swift shook her head. I don't really know, sir. Most ponies don't even know there are protection spells in back rooms, much less that they can be monitored. I only know because She's chief of security and was always chasing me down if Scarlett and I tried to get into things when we shouldn't have when Mom was working. I swept my coat via bits of dinner. I know unicorns get a sensation in their horns when moving through magic fields, so we're probably dealing with at least one. Probably a specialist of some kind. Taxi pulled her lower lip a few times and ended. Well, the spies aside, King Cosmo is what we should be worried about. If he did hire them, and they were looking for some pony in particular, then whoever it was either had something he wanted or could provide him with something he might come off as a thug. But that's just the surface. He didn't get where he was by being incautious. And yet he lure and this is where I have a hard time talking. And yet he lures Azure Rose, or whatever her name is, out to a major hotel and leaves her dead in the alleyway where any pony can find a body. Does Cosmo sound like some? Does Cosmo sound like the kind of pony to pull a hit himself? He's at least powerful enough to have ponies do that. Maybe one of them got sloppy. Maybe. Regardless, Rose sounds like she was running from something. I said, thinking aloud. Isolationism mixed with loneliness is something usually seen in ponies who are used to socialization and suddenly find it dangerous. Could easily have been him she was running from. Taxi remembered. The only reason the jewelers haven't managed a citywide takeover is the cyclones. If he were managed to something like eliminating the stilettos, he might really move up in the family to major kingpin. That or he might just be looking for some black material to extort Miss Stella or the customers and not know that the stilettos are the force behind the survival of the Heights. Either way, King Cosmo is playing with fire. There was the worry. While it seemed no pony outside of the Vivi really knew the stiletto's role in the city power structure, the thought of the jewelers suddenly owning one of the largest suburbs in the city was pretty nerving by itself. The Cyclone crew survived largely on raw numbers and youthful bravados. The jewelers were significantly fewer, but rich and well equipped. Having the Heights under their hoofs would give the jewelers a gigantic recruiting ground and tipping the balance of the underworld entirely. They might even have resources to move out of Detrot and begin to infect other cities. Alright, so if we're handling this ourselves, I want to know everything I can about King Cosmo. Call Telly and have her tap the cloud file and send down everything you can related to him and Azure Rose. Try to keep it quiet if you can. If you tell her to keep it off the books, she'll keep it off the books. Taxi pulled the note back. Taxi pulled the notebook over, turned back a few pages, and pointed to the notes from the crime scene. The forensic eunuch. Oh, the forensic eunuch is probably not going to tell us anything we don't already know, but Slipstitch will have it, she said, tapping the lines, detailing the bloodstains. Taking my tie off, I stuffed it into a pocket. I want to see Slipstitch first thing, before we go and handle this little errand for the lizard. My driver groaned loudly. Ugh. Swift was quickly slipping into a food coma and didn't notice. I continued. He'll have the coroner's workup on the Jane pony done by then. I'm hoping and praying that we get positive ID from the apartment or the record search. If not, we're back to square one with this whole pile of fresh problems. It was a full hour before Swift could fly. The night had well and truly set in by the time we found a skyscraper willing to let her use the roof as a takeoff. I entertained a momentary worry that I was about to see a Pegasus misjudge her own maximum flight weight, but she managed a solid takeoff with only a little bit of a wobble before catching a low thermal and sailing out of sight. This is probably loud, I'm sorry. Oh, Gypsy. Gypsy. Okay. Once more in the car, taxi tapped the radio dial, and sweetly, surely, Mare's voice spelled out of the speakers. Listeners, this is your Lady of the Waves, your queen, your empress of the evening, Gypsy. Welcome to the Ever Free Radio. All the news the newspaper think you're not fit to know. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. Now, I know y'all think I'm some kind of crazed, horny succubus riding the airwaves to satisfy my own ego. Well, I'm here to say yes. Yes, I am. Your love and adoration is what keeps me going, my beautiful listeners, and I'd get on my knees and kiss every one of your hooves, claws, and toes right here, right now, if I could. I bumped the back seat. Hey, what is this? It's Gypsy, Taxi replied. You haven't heard of her? She's a pirate radio station that all the cabbies listen to. She does mostly unfiltered news reports. Mare Sniffer wants her head on a plate after she broke that story last year about his wife getting high as a kite on beam and running through Celestial Park demanding the trees make dirty love to her. He tried to cover it up, and Gypsy was the only one with the whole story. No kidding. That was this pony? She sounds crazy. Oh, you're not wrong. She turned up the volume. My ears perked up, and I sat forward to listen. Tonight, before we start that evening musical lineup, I've yet another manifestos from those wacky, wicked cyclones. This will be, what? The sixth one we've received this month? Those letters are single-hoofedly keeping the local mailman employed. Now, listeners, normally I wouldn't design to put this trash on my show because, frankly, these ponies repulse me and should be sterilized with a rusty spoon, but I feel you need, nay, deserve the truth of what's out there. Paper shuffled and a voice coughed and then put a hoof over the mic and yelled, Hey, where on earth is that stupid thing we got from the Cyclones? Male's voice came back. It's in the bottom of the birdcage. Ah, thanks. Okay, I've got it here. Let me just hit the highlights. There's a bit of poo on it, so I'll make this short. Or, hey, Corpus does have a thing. Is gonna get very testy since I've stolen his bathroom. The canary shielded in the background. Yes, Corny. I'll get your toilet back in a minute. Here we go. Blah blah blah. We the mighty morons. This is the bit I want to read to you. We are the cyclones. We are the oncoming storm which will sweep away the injustice perpetrated against pony time by lesser species, the buffalo, the zebras, and the griffins. We bring a new order to Equestria with the freedom for all pony kind. We have the weapons, if only we have the will. We have the weapons, if only we have the will to use them. With lightning and fire, we'll go on the offensive, and there will be no fiend or false friend who will dare oppose us. The zebra and their foul and natural magics, the griffins and their rigid militarism, the buffalo and their backwards mysticism will all find new places in this order, but above all, they will serve pony kind, and no longer their foolish selfish interests. The worst transgressors, the police department will be dissolved, and their criminal syndicate tax-funded thugs will be hung from the lampposts at the top of the buildings to be left to rot for their crimes. They suppress the people. They are the very instruments of oppression. We are your feet. Ah, la-dee-da. It goes on like that for 3 more pages. Here, bird. something for you to urinate on besides my bloody slippers. There was a sound like a stream of liquid hitting a hot frying pan. There's a good boy. Now, before you make my intentions here, I just want to say that the only reason why I'm giving any airtime to these manical acquaintances is to make a salient point. I'm from Detrot. I was born here, and this is my city. I might not have been around during the Foundation, but I damn well appreciate the presence of other species. Griffin mercenaries gave their lives fighting dragons. They threw themselves in the jaws of the beast at 100 times their size to keep us alive so our town can flourish. They helped us lay the groundwork of the pact. The buffalo came hundreds of miles from their normal stopping ground at Princess Celestia's behest to stampede the wilderness flat so we could plant our crops. Their teaching on agriculture let us build a home in some of the harshest land Equestria has to offer. Some even stayed to make our home theirs. The zebras, our friends from across the seas, helped us with the first working of the shield. They were the seeds on which all our research into alchemy was built. If you enjoy your car or your magical lights, you have these zebras to thank. We paid them. Sorry. This is why I say this is not an audiobook, because I need pauses. I can't do this straight, and I don't have the patience to edit. Besides, I like giving natural reactions. And if I mess up, this is an audiobook, so I don't care. Besides, he's watching this anyways. We paid them, yes, but when I hear of a poor striped pony mare with a zebra for a mother and a pegasus for a father, having half her face kicked in because she dared to go out at night in the wrong neighborhood, I feel ashamed. You hear me? I feel ashamed to call this city mine. You cyclones might claim to be the champion of the dog trotting, but you're nothing but a lot of gutless pissants who can't keep it up without stopping some poor mare's head. I've known champions. My mother fought in the Cutie Mark Crusades. When the dragons sued for peace, she got off her war scooter and she shook claws with them. My listeners, you can do better. I wouldn't want to live in Detroit without the buffaloes, the zebra, or the griffins. If ever you're tempted to follow these gormless father-screwing bastards, or you level a resentful thought at our friends in their enclaves, remember this. They gave those advantages willingly and died so you would have a chance of life. Whatever you might achieve with technology, that is a debt you will never repay. Now, from Luna's 15 return party, this is a song that rung in the night. My mother is a friend with the singer and can report firsthand that there was not a dry eye in the audience. Okay, I'm going to take a quick step back, and I want you to stop and think. Cutie Bar Crusades, War Scooter, friends with a singer. Who does that sound like with you? The only reason why they're not getting a who's who tomorrow is because I already prepped them for when they come in later. So there's way too many spoilers about who they are. Besides, they're not named yet, other than Cutie Mark Crusaders. And actually, I don't know if I have Cutie. Yeah, I do. There is a who's who about the Cutie Mark Crusaders. And I will add them to the tags when they finally get added. Okay, so I need a second. Here. Wait. Wait. Okay. So, last time I read, I brought up a debate. We were talking about who Gypsy is. Because everybody, almost everybody in the server has read through the entire story. And uh, if I believe one of the one of the people in the server is right that Gypsy is a certain pony, but the male and the bird doesn't make sense if what they said is correct. But we do find out and meet Gypsy later, so I'm not really that concerned. But I love the fact that I can go through and talk about this with other people and who love the story just as much as I do. In fact, one of the people in the server, and there's a link in my YouTube videos, is planning in about a month's time to start recording an official audiobook for this story. Whereas I'm just doing a daily blog. The music was old and beautiful. It was an old and beautiful tune about some dumb stallion who fell in love with the moon. Pretty, and just the thing after the kind of day we both had, I decided it was a good time to Cindy to broach the subject that was probably littered with emotional landmines. Sweets. Taxi rolled 1 year back in my direction and asked sharply, "Do you really want to talk to me about this right now? I'm shagged out, and if you try to interrogate, and if you try to interrogate me just to satisfy yourself, we'll both end up peeved at each other again." Damn it, you don't even know what I'm gonna ask. Her condensation started as a fierce tug on the on the handbrake, and she pulled us at full speed into a 180-degree turn in a no U-turn zone, and most of my organs tried to slide right into my ankles. "You're gonna ask me why I was such a tall drink of steamy hot piss this morning," she said, completely certain. I opened my mouth to rebuke, but then my jaw snapped shut. She was right, of course. Even 30 years on, I knew only a tiny percentage of what on in my best friend's brain, but she could read me like 100 hoofs high billboard. "Jason," I reported more gently. "Fine. Then we'll skip the interrogation and the horseshoes. Sweet, please tell me what's bothering you." For a minute, I was certain she was just gonna leave me sitting there chewing on my cud, or worse, dump me on the side of the road. It wouldn't have been the first time I'd earned a long walk back to my apartment. When she did speak, it was terribly smooth. "You take a look at the calendar when you got off the couch this morning?" she asked. I can't say that I did. It's a little disturbing, you know where I slept last night. "Oh, what can I say? You come out looking like some pony tossed you down the stairs, and I put two and two together." She shook out her braid and tapped the bobble head of a lavender unicorn on the dashboard. I never bothered to ask about its significance, but in times of stress she'd give it a poke for inspiration. "You remember back when your dad died?" My, my tongue felt several sizes too large all of a sudden. That was an unexpected turn. I'd been new to the force when my father died. He gave me his gun, and 6 months later, he was gone. It'd been one of the few times in my intervening years I'd seriously considered quitting. It never occurred to me that event would affect my yellow friend nearly as deeply. I. Yes. You vanished for about 3 weeks after the funeral. What does that have to do with today? I'm a little confused. The date he died was 6 months ago. She lowered her ears. "When bad things happen, my first instinct is to run. Whenever my parents would invite, I'd come to your place." I bobbed my chin affirmatively, warming inside at the memories of the many late nights where I had awoken to sweet shine, tossing rocks at my window. I usually pulled her in by her forelegs, and we'd sit with a hot chocolate or a bag of cookies until she calmed down. After initial tears, she'd give me one of her bright smiles and a hug. Those genuine smiles had become rarer through the years. I found I missed them. Go on, I said encouragingly. The day I lost my kitty mark is coming up. I know I shouldn't go through life accumulating these terrible anniversaries. Damn it! I rested my knees over the driver's seat. Are you finally going to tell some pony what actually happened? I know the board accepted that load of horse apples you fed them because you'd lost your handler and you were so covered in bandages you look like a mummy. But I know you better. You were too careful to get made when you were undercover. Sorry. We were nearing my apartment. The evening streets were a comforting embrace into which I could sneak and let go of my worries. Death could wait till the morning. Taxi threw a pensive look at me, and I could have sworn she was about to say something. But then the cursive peace swept down over her features like a hammer, and the brief window was closed again. Never mind, I'll be fine, Hardy. I just need a few days. I won't let it affect work. Damn. I don't think I'm gonna do this. I don't think I'm gonna be able to do a second chapter before I need to lay down. The remainder of the drive had given me time to reflect. By the standard of equestrian policing, things were going well enough. We had the name on the deceased. All of the body parts were in one place. No, they aren't. The horn's missing. The cause of death was pretty surely nailed down. Those might all seem rather basic to a creature who lives in areas of lower ambient magic, but the areas around the wireless, I've seen bounties where the dead was, which were only dead on the basis they weren't breathing. Thankfully, zombie ponies aren't common, or I would have surely lost my mind a long time ago. Determining the time of the murder is a pain in the flank when witnesses swear they saw the victim walking around 3 days after they were shot. Yeah. All right. It's Easter, so the zombie ponies aren't common. Or determining the time of the murder is a pain in the flank when the victim is walking around 3 days after they were shot. Oh, hey, look, Easter, didn't Jesus rise from the grave 3 days after he was killed? Uh, that could be one of the foreshadowing things here. And by the way, Jesus wasn't a zombie. Jesus was a lich. And let me see if I can find a picture, because, Easter was just. Okay. Easter was yesterday. And I know one of my servers. Okay, I'm just going to know. There we go. That's what I want. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to close these tabs. Okay, so I'm going to pull this up and throw this on the screen. Jesus was not a zombie. He was not mindless, nor did he consume anyone. Nor was he a ghoul. Although his soul and intelligence were intact, he was not in a rotting corpse. He was not a ghoul or a wraith. He was not a vampire. While he transmitted wine into blood, he never drank it from a person. Jesus was not a ghost or a wrath. He was corporal and still had his wounds. It is clear. Jesus was a lich. A lich is created when a powerful magician or a king, striving for eternal life, uses spells or rituals to bind his soul to an animated corpse and thereby achieves immortality. Liches are depicted as being clearly cadaverous. Their bodies are still bearing the wounds they received before their death. Liches often have the power of necromancy, which allow them to bring the dead back to life. Okay, so I want to come back over here, go to Chessie, go to the reread, and post the picture. Okay. I'm sorry, I find that funny and I really wish I would have tweeted that yesterday. Alright. The remainder of the drive had given me time to reflect. Oh, I already. Taxi left me outside the building, and I got out and turned to say goodnight, but she'd already blasted off around the bend at near top speed. The cab's alchemy-enhanced engine throwing arcs of arcane energy into the pavement underneath it. I'd spent too much of the day with Juniper on my mind. Chloe's reminder was about as welcome as the Chief's. I could practically feel my brain revving up to deliver a 1-2 punch of bad dreams and shitty sleep. I turned the key to my apartment, all but bucked open the door, then yanked off my coat and threw it across the chair. The couch was calling, but there were necessities. I pulled a beer out of the kitchen, hooked it under my front teeth, popped off the cap, and then took a deep, refreshing swig. It washed the flavor of the office, the TM sex club, the gory crime scene out of my muzzle. It wasn't a great taste, but it was a taste that could be relied on. Too many uncertainties. Beer is a certain. I decided I needed more certainty and had a second one. And then a third one to make sure the second one was as sure as it could possibly be. It mixed with the fantastic dinner to produce a pleasing heaviness in the gut. Tomorrow would be another day, and probably just as bad as this one had been. Such is life in Equestria. I slept, and though I woke up panting in the middle of the night, I was too drunk by then to remember what terrors my imagination had conjured up. It was a good night. And that is chapter 7. And it is almost 4 o'clock in the morning. So, as awesome as this chapter is going to be, because a morgue party, yes, a morgue, like where the dead body is. I will give a bit of a spoiler because if you've read the previous chapters, it's not a spoiler. They actually run inside the hotel at the crime scene when they think they hear the mortician come up because it sounds like an ice cream truck. His personality is described to make you think that he is a descendant from Pinkie Pie. He has her personality. He is such an awesome pony. I love him to pieces. Okay, but my body is throwing a fit. I just do not have the ability to stay up. And I don't have the energy to read another chapter as much as I want to, so I'm going to call it here. When I wake up, I'm going to hop on. I'm going to play at least an hour of the game for charity. And then after dinner, I afterwards at some point I'll start reading again. And if I start early enough, I can do 3 chapters to make up for the fact that I've only done one this weekend. Because today, chapter 6 got posted. Chapter 7 will post tomorrow, which is Tuesday. And you can see right there, chapter 8 needs to be done. And my goal is to, for the next few months, until this is done, post a chapter every single day. Alright. That's enough of me rambling. I need to take off this headset. I hope y'all have a wonderful time. Please feel free to jump ahead, go read the story without me. It's a good story. It really is. You don't need to care about My Little Pony. If you just want a good pony, My Little Pony is there to flesh out the world and give, so far, less than 30 things that are in the show. Yeah, we can't talk anymore. Sorry, guys. I want to, but I can't. So, ending the recording.